Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
How many lives do you suppose you've saved in your medical career?
What has that got to do with anything?
Hundreds? Thousands? Do you suppose those people give a damn that you lied to get into Starfleet Medical? I doubt it. We deal with threats to the Federation that jeopardize its very survival. If you knew how many lives we've saved, I think you'd agree that the ends do justify the means. I'm not afraid of bending the rules every once in a while if the situation warrants it. And I don't think you are either.
You've got the wrong man, Sloan.
I don't think so. In time, you'll come to agree with me.
Don't hold your breath.
All I ask is that when you get back to Deep Space Nine, you consider what I've said.
What if I decide to expose you?
Let's just say I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Are we going to get started? Like, what are we doing?
I don't know, man.
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready.
I'm ready to go. All right.
ready to
You
go.
don't look ready because you're standing.
I'm ready to go.
All right. I'm going to push the button here.
I guess
Click.
I didn't know.
All right. Jesse said he was ready to go. Dan said he was ready to go. So I have started the podcast.
Have you ever seen Dan sneeze before?
What do you mean?
You know.
I've never seen you sneeze before.
That's
I
a good-
sneeze all the time.
Well, Jesse sneezes all the time.
I sneeze all
No,
the
it's
time, and I
because-
sneeze like 10 times.
He's Mr.
in a row.
Sneeze.
No, it's because I have self-control and I can like stop it from coming when I'm in public.
Yeah,
Jesse's,
that's got to be what it is.
Yeah.
Jesse's probably going to be sneezing sometime tonight during this podcast.
Yeah,
He's never done it.
I just hold it in. I hold it in.
Well, anyway, guys, the clock has started. We have started the podcast.
Though I will say, Jesse, that your situation a little different because I don't usually sneeze like 10 times in a row. So you have a different thing
I'm
going
a
on.
sneezy guy.
He is a sneezy guy.
Sneezy time guy.
Anyway, Dan, you were saying something about me standing up. Is that going to be a problem?
I don't know why you're doing it.
I'm giving it a try.
Why?
I'm trying out this whole podcasting while standing up thing.
No, I think you're just trying to fuck with me
I'm not trying. Why would you think I'm trying to fuck with you specifically?
because you notice that it's distracting me.
I didn't notice it was distracting you. You pretty much stated that.
And that's when you decided to keep standing up. See, I think you were standing up briefly, and then we're about to sit down, but I was like, what's going on with that standing?
No.
And then you were just like, haha, I'm going to keep doing this.
No,
'cause
it's
it
like a
bothers
thing.
Dan.
People stand up while broadcasting.
No,
It's good for the lungs, for the diaphragm.
Okay, you've never done that. You've never done that before, and you also didn't warn me that you were going to do it.
Is he throwing you off,
Wind
man?
goes
Is he
sweeping
throwing
down
you
the
right off?
plains, Oklahoma, where the
off
waving
your-
wheat
your
can sure
track.
smell sweet.
All right, I'm
when
just
the
going to sit
wind
quietly
comes right behind the
until our
rain.
shit gets back into place.
All right. Anyway, no,
What
I
is
just,
this
I
shit you
seriously,
wanna
I just,
talk
I
about?
thought I'd try standing up for a bit. Maybe I'll sit down.
Oh,
in a
no,
bit.
I just wish you would have warned me. Is all.
Okay, I do apologize. You're right.
I deserve to know. I deserve to know.
It was sort of an ad hoc, last minute decision.
Well, you can't just like throw shit in there without letting
I
like,
understand.
people you work with know.
I'm apologizing because
You
you're
gotta
right.
give him a heads up. I'm
It
going to
sort of
stand up
happened
now.
naturally because I was just adjusting things. I
There's
was
certain
like, this is
things-
kind of fun.
There's certain things that I need to be able to count on in order to do what I'm supposed to do.
Oh, my
Okay.
goodness.
I respect that. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to, man, this is weird standing up. All right. I'm going to give it the good college try. All right. I'm
Do
standing up. It's giving me a lot more physical ability to move, and I'm a fidgety guy, so I'm being a little extra wiggly during this introduction.
It's like you're the
so-
conductor.
Yeah, well, except I'm conducting what? Conducting a bottle of Mexican coffee tequila.
Oh, no.
That's what I got in front of me. Anyway.
Bottle in front of me.
Okay, let's get moving here. Hello and welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Well,
Damn right! We keep a low profile.
I had like some sustain that damn
Yeah.
right. Can you play that again?
Damn right!
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's the part, just the movie, baby.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
said baby.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Baby.
You can call me baby. I'm okay with that.
Hey, baby,
I say
baby.
that sometimes.
Hey, baby, baby. When'd you call me baby? You never call me baby.
I went through a
Jesse,
phase
why-
where I was saying baby.
Why don't you call me baby, Jesse? You need
I
to call
call
me
you baby.
Why don't you call your baby your baby?
Well, he might call his baby
That makes me uncomfortable.
because he has like an actual baby.
But I'm
I have a
like,
couple
I'm
of
his
babies.
figurative baby.
I think you're a lot of people's figurative baby. All right. So welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Yes.
This is episode 278.
Actually, when I first came in here, I half suspected that I would be interrogated under a very bright light.
Okay. Well, there you go. It's episode 278.
That's how I feel about
pretty
whenever I do the episodes of podcasts.
It's just every episode of the podcast.
He's
There's a
always on
bright
his
light.
guard,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
We're gonna get him.
All right.
Yes.
So yes, and you can
Sabotage.
probably gather from Dan's sound clips as well as from the title of the episode when you clicked on it, most likely. We are going to be discussing Star Trek Deep Space Nine's 6th season episode, 18th episode of the 6th season,
That's correct.
Inquisition.
I think it's obvious.
Okay.
That was a disaster.
No, it's all right. We're
sounded
just getting
cool,
started.
yeah.
I'm throwing you off because I'm standing up here and
Yeah.
I'm being all wiggly and fidgety.
Correct.
Yeah,
Mr.
so-
Wiggly Worms.
Yeah, this week we're going to talk about Inquisition, but first a couple things to go over. A reminder that if you leave us a review, we don't want to leave you hanging with nothing. There can be a bit of a quid pro quo here. So what we offer to all our listeners, well, not to
Squid
all our
pro
listeners,
quo.
we offer to the listeners who leave a review and let us know about it. Dan is going to write you a custom haiku. And read
Fascinating
it, yes, and
stuff.
read it and read it on the air. So that is a reward you can get for writing a review.
I'm afraid so.
And we've got a couple voicemails this week. So let's get to those voicemails.
That's a very good sign.
Yeah,
I think so.
It is indeed. So the first voicemail is from our old friend Jesse. Not this Jesse, and not that Jesse,
I'm not their friend.
but Jesse.
Yes.
Hey guys, it is Jessie from Crusher Convo, and tonight I just taped my season 3 premiere with Lori from Trek Movie about Bride of Chaotica and Holodeck Fun. Now, her favorite Holodeck episode is The Killing Game, which you guys just talked about last week. And I was curious about something. If you guys got to go into any Holodeck program, what would it be? For me, it would be April 15th, 1947, when Jackie Robinson walked on Ebbets Field as the first Black Major League Baseball player. Huge fan of Jackie and the Dodgers, and I know that day was epic, which I will be honoring Jackie this season, so stay tuned. But I can't wait to hear your thoughts, and as always, live long and prosper.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. So I think that's, first of all, I think that's a great question. We'll get to the holodeck question in a second. Although it's also funny because when I first heard her ask
Holograms?
which holodeck program we want to go into, I was immediately thinking of the stupid Star Trek ones, and she busts out with witnessing a historic moment in civil rights.
For real.
I was thinking more along the lines of going to Quark's holosuites, getting involved in one of those spy programs of Julian's, something along those lines. All right, so getting to Jesse's question, if you all could go into a holodeck program, what would you be aiming for?
Well, it has to be nonfiction.
No, I think it could be anything.
It could be
My
anything?
understanding is it could be anything. You could have anything in the holodeck. Remember, it's the holodeck. And one complaint I think all of us have voiced in the past is that, understandably, is related to production constraints. But they have a holodeck that can produce anything, and it's often very banal. It's like, let's go to the beach, as opposed to let's go to a world where everything's a hamster.
Well,
and everything's just touching me.
Dragon writing. How about dragon writing?
Oh, Jesse's into the dragon writing.
Speaking of Voyager holodecks, back when they went with the Hirojin, remember that whole holodeck episode with the Nazis?
That's what we're referring to. The
What we're
killing
talking
game.
about, dog.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was literally just last week. Dan.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, but the way you've the tone you're using and the phraseology you're using is suggesting something much further back, like when Jesse and I discussed Fairhaven and Spirit.
I see.
They introduced a new bit of lore, I think, in that it requires more processing power to have a larger holodeck space. Now, that makes sense. Like, the more shit you make, the more power you need. But they never introduced it like that previously. Previously, the holodeck... See, one time, I think Patrick thought that they ran on conveyor belts. I think that's what you suggested once, Patrick, because you thought it ran on conveyor belts.
Well, okay, can I clarify? I probably argued that a conveyor belt or something similar was a component of the holodeck. Not that holodecks run on...
No, not like there's a hamster, like, speaking of hamsters, not like there's a hamster in a hamster wheel. I'm just saying,
probably
like,
some molecular
like data in a
quantum
hamster
tickles.
wheel.
It like quantum wiggles your
I think,
feet around.
I think that it all still happens fully in the mind, but whatever, that's not even the point. Point is
That would be the
like,
easier solution.
Is that like, I didn't ever consider that there was a limit to how big a holodeck could be, but apparently there is.
Well, all right, so taking those limits aside, if you could just go into a regular old holodeck, let's say holodeck 3?
Well, okay, what about like, if my wish is my holodeck takes me to a place where I have a holodeck. That's like wishing for more wishes, right?
You want your
Can you do that?
holodeck to give you another holodeck?
Yeah.
All right.
No, that's...
Or is that like Inception?
Oh, Holoception? No, what would I don't know, but it would involve a house with a room of infinite hamburgers.
Wow, dude.
Like where I could just reach in and pull out a hamburger.
Cheeseburger.
That's actually, that's
cheeseburger.
interesting.
Sure, any kind of hamburger I want at that moment.
Any kind of burger.
I just reach in and there's a room and I look in the room.
Salsa burger.
And it's filled with burgers. I can see it's just filled to the brim with burgers, but it never ends and I can keep grabbing a burger and I always
Burger
grab
of your
exactly
choice.
the burger.
Exactly the right one.
The one that I want. Even if I don't know which one I want, my subconscious
Sushi
mind
burger.
tells me.
I think that
Spam
sounds like
burger.
a rad idea.
Spam
Yeah.
burger.
Then I'd want another room that was a gateway into the dinosaur times.
Yeah.
Okay, you're getting greedy here.
I think I am getting a little greedy.
Jesse, very explicitly stated you could just go to the one.
Okay, fine.
So
I think hamburgers
you created
over-
a holodeck with multiple holodecks.
Yeah.
Well, with a one
Okay,
other
if I
holodeck.
had to choose one, I'd pick the hamburger room over the dinosaur room.
And Jesse, are you down with the dragon riding or something similar? Because
Something like that.
Dragon riding's not too far off
Dragon
from
riding, infinite
from
skies.
dinosaurs.
I think, you know what, honestly, I'd like to have magical powers. That's what I want. I want to be a wizard. I
Hell
wanna catch
yeah, dude.
Wizard shit.
I was going
down
to go
with
along
that.
the lines of
Fuck that burger shit.
I'd
I'd only do the burger shit
Well-
if I'd only do the burger shit if I never gained any weight from eating them. And
You could
I
have
was always
magical
hungry.
powers and still have the burger.
the holodeck can beam the food out
Yeah,
your
so I
body.
don't get fat. So that's how I purge. Is
Yeah.
through the holodeck. Okay, I'm done for real.
Okay. Well, what I would do, I'm split because I would either want some kind of crazy world that was all soft, fuzzy animals like hamsters or mice or something that you could just like roll around in
Weird.
and without hurting them and everything's just wiggling all over you.
Whatever you say.
But I could see that getting boring at some point. So I would also be into sort of a Dungeons and Dragons type land where you go around and have adventures and pick different skills and kind of like a real life video game action.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, living in some like super cool, awesome
Word.
D&D type world would be cool.
I can understand that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jesse. That was an excellent question.
Thank you.
And people should head over to the Crusher Convo podcast and check out all sorts of awesome stuff, no doubt in store in this coming season of the Crusher
Yes.
Convo podcast.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Correct.
All right. And now we have a voicemail from our old friend Isaac from Tasmania.
Exactly.
Hi guys, Isaac here from the Trek 365 podcast, wishing you all a very happy holograms or holograms. Whatever one you prefer. Anyway, in the last podcast that you guys released, sensational effort, by the way, by all, but Dan called out that he felt like he was a bit picked on by Jesse and Patrick and perhaps they had it in for him kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's paraphrasing. It's not exactly what he said. But I listened with an impartial ear, and I have to say, Dan 100% calls it how it is.
Yep.
These guys have it in for you, buddy.
They do. I knew it.
Do with that what you like. Maybe you want to glare at them. Maybe even think some mean things. That will
Exactly.
really show them. But yeah, just wanted to call it out. The other thing I wanted to mention in passing is Patrick just said, but we're doing Inquisition next week. And I assume, like I'm adding me in that like we, the four of us, are doing Inquisition by DS9. I'm just about to pop it on and see what it's about. Anyway, that's moving away from the algorithm. So I actually developed an algorithm and put the transcript from your last episode in. It suggested that we do past tense this week. I ignored that, went to the next one. So this week we're going to actually do Inquisition from
He's
DS9.
clever.
So that's what the algorithm says this week. All right, let's go watch it, and then we can go chat about it. I hope you guys are having a good week, and can't wait to hear from you guys next time on It's God Star Trek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It takes exceptional people to do what we do.
Indeed. Well,
Thank you for your cooperation.
thank you, Isaac.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Thanks, Agamus.
I can confirm on behalf of myself and Jesse that yes, indeed, we are out to get Dan.
Yeah, I knew it.
We, as a joke,
You think you're smarter than the rest of us, don't you?
we kept that secret from Dan, but we realized it's more fun if we're just overt about it.
You have no right to do this, Sloan.
Sloan. You have no right to do this, Sloan.
You have no right to do this, Sloan.
And a programming note about the algorithm. Longtime listeners will know that normally we rely on Dan's custom algorithm that what he does is he takes a transcript from the previous, like one of the previous episodes of It's Got Star Trek.
Meaning what?
Uses that transcript, analyzes it with some sort of algorithm.
What?
And then it spits out a list.
It tells us to watch past tense.
It spits out an ordered list of the next episodes that we're supposed to watch.
Why did you do it, Julian?
And it does often suggest we watch Star Trek's past tense.
You're absolutely sure about
Special
that.
Past tense part
DS9,
two.
which we've already done both parts 1 and part 2 of past tense long ago.
Way before the algorithm.
Yeah. So
Did they want?
we have not abandoned Dan's algorithm. Not at all. However,
No.
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 Don't.
I don't think so. No.
no, we haven't. We'll get back to it.
There are a lot of
eventually.
yeses and nos in this episode, by the way.
Dan, that's another thing, longtime listeners will know. Dan likes to tally up the yeses, nos, and you have a whole spectrum of positive to negative words, right? And a color coding. Don't answer that. You do. We'll stipulate.
It goes from
You don't have to answer.
and the order is positive to negative. It starts with it, and then they, and then I, and then you, and then it bookends with yeses and nos on either end of the whole thing.
Got it.
And then there's questions.
I know.
And then there's beginning starts with I'm sorry's and apology and thank yous, and then openings, and at the end are closings. Yeah, I could make a whole diagram showing you exactly.
I agree.
And it kind of evolves over time.
I admit my error in bringing it up. It was unnecessary.
That's correct.
I know that you were compelled to explain it in more detail.
Make it sound so ominous.
No, the algorithm. For no reason in particular, lately we've just decided it would be fun to focus on episodes that, explore the moral and practical dimensions about combating oppressive governments.
Yes.
So the algorithm picked The City on the Edge of Forever for us, and that was something about how thinking about or pondering the question of whether it is okay to sacrifice an innocent life in order to avoid a slide into fascism. That was an
The ends do
interesting-
justify the means.
Last week, of course, we did The Killing Game in Voyager, which talks about sort of the value of resistance against oppressive regimes.
The ends don't always justify the means.
No matter what the issues are. This week, of course, we will eventually, shortly, get to discussing Inquisition.
It's around the
Afraid so.
Which Inquisition is very interesting because one of the things that it posits is that there is this shadowy secret organization, sort of an X-Files style organization. However, there's always been that little bit of a tug of war between the idea of like how awful it is to have an organization that doesn't report to anybody, but then there's always that little bit of hope that that's the organization that's actually going to save you from the people who are trying to tear down your shit, right?
For real.
It's an interesting discussion, which we will eventually get to. But anyway, so that's what we've been doing. And by the way, heads up, next
Not
week,
a new technique,
Heads
I
up.
admit.
next week we're going to
An
discuss
effective one nonetheless.
TNG's The Drumhead.
You're absolutely sure about that.
Kind of keeping with the theme for the time being. But anyway,
You have a problem with that?
we'll get back to the algorithm in not too long.
But what does that say about us?
Thank you, Isaac, as always, for your call. And folks, definitely head over to Trek 365. It's a fantastic daily podcast. It's coming out every day. Isn't that crazy? It's only 365 seconds long. What's that? That's like 6 minutes and 6 seconds, 6 minutes, 7 seconds, something like that.
You're joking.
I'm not.
Wow.
Go check it out. And while you're at
Whatever you say.
go check out Open Pike Night. Oh, by the way, Green Shirt, which is an excellent podcast, like the premier podcast about TNG.
For real.
One of the hosts, Cameron, never had seen TNG, and so he was a green shirt, and he watched all of TNG. Now they're just doing, about to do All Good Things. So he a green shirt no longer. right? Now he can, I don't know what color shirt he'll have, and hopefully they'll keep doing some awesome stuff because it's a fantastic podcast. So go check out the series. Not the podcast is not ending, but they're finished covering TNG.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
For real.
I know, right?
We haven't even done that for real.
I know. There's so much,
For real.
so much awesome stuff going out there in podcast land. All right, well, back to this podcast. Back to the It's Got Star Trek podcast. That's us.
It's got it.
I think it's obvious.
I think that's all the front matter. I think we can just dive into our discussion. So did that creep out Dan?
Creep Jesse out a little bit more, I think.
The front.
I think because he was thinking about how I was creeped out.
No, it's because Jesse doesn't like when I say front matter. Dan, you don't like when I say back matter, isn't it?
No, I don't like. You don't
when
like
I say,
either. I don't know. I don't like front matter. Remember, it was me who complained about the front matter.
I don't think I really.
Yeah, I
have
don't
a
think
problem
Jesse
with
did. I told you because it makes me think about frontward facing farts. Like
In time, you'll come to agree with me.
All right. Inquisition. Let's get started. Inquisition, directed by Michael Dorn.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
And Worf had 2 lines. He had 2 lines. He had this,
Where's the captain?
and he also had this.
You have run out of excuses, Doctor.
Those were his 2 lines.
Yeah. And he didn't once complain about how he didn't get his cock.
Yeah.
I know, right? That was fucked up.
Well, because
that was like the most horrifying fuck
Hey,
up you could get in your meals.
Hey,
Get gawk instead of like
Well,
instead of like a skull.
it was just too early for Gok. He would have eaten it later on.
just a reminder.
I think he was joking. I don't think Bashir likes
Just a reminder,
gawk.
there was no Worf.
He was.
Worf did not get his cock because that was all a
Yeah,
fabrication.
that was all of him fucking with him.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. So
Make
this,
him hungry.
This is, I think most people might agree, a fairly classic Deep Space Nine episode. It is where we are introduced to the idea of Section 31, which is, just from a lore perspective, that's interesting. But I've always really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
I love episodes that are weird and you don't know what's going on, kind of like Whispers with O'Brien on DS9, where he's like, there's some shady
Chief O'Brien?
We covered Whispers long ago. That type of thing where you're just sort
Not
of
that long.
unnerved and you're
Yeah.
like, what's going on? And
Because Sloan kept switching up his tactics all over the place to throw him off kilter.
Yeah.
And there's one other thing in this episode that they don't really talk about so much, but it's this how tragic it is, Bashir's position, what a tragic position he's in, and a lot of people are in when they're the subject of like trauma, because as soon as you get at the subject of trauma, you're on suspicion. Oftentimes you're on suspicion by everyone else because they're like, he got this happened to him. Is he going to do it to other people now? And that's
and you're referring to being taken prisoner and being accused
Prisoner.
of,
Yeah.
since he was taken prisoner, that he would, that's somehow a reason to suspect that he's become a traitor.
right, exactly.
That's some
and
mafia shit.
And you can also take it to like, day-to-day examples, like if as a child you were abused as a child, people are worried, now they have a higher likelihood of abuse. Jobs straight up teach you to be careful of outsiders. They say, watch about that guy who looks
You're not one of
unsatisfied. And like in
You're
school,
talking about like if you're like at a retail establishment or something like that? Or?
well, I'm just talking about any, like if you're at like an
office building?
office job that has like sensitive information or whatever, like, and like they say like they say like watch out for people who like look
Watch out!
with that look
If you see something, say something.
watch out for people that look disgruntled or whatever, and like think about how in school the outsider gets picked on, and like people are like, why is he such a loser? And it's like, if you took the time to like think about like how that person feels, they don't want to be that way, so they're already in a position of feeling like an outsider, feeling like they're picked on, feeling like they don't know how to communicate, and instead of people trying to like help them along, they push them further away, and they get on both sides, and so it's just totally something like a situation happening to you, and from there cascading a whole sequence of events that are out of your control, and it's like each side gets more and more suspicious, and that's a shitty position Bashir had to be in. It's like after all that trauma to be fucking told you're a liar.
And taking aside the ultimate purpose, which once it's revealed retroactively,
just messing with that guy.
All this stuff makes more sense. But I think part of the brilliance of this episode about how it's structured is that the whole time it's happening, we really aren't thinking this is not happening, right? This is a holodeck ruse or whatever, right? They did a good job
Pretty much, man.
of everything being a believable march towards being railroaded. And because of the injustice that we feel to our boy Bashir, we really sympathize with him. But I don't know about you guys, that part in the episode when Cisco is kind of like, maybe, fake Cisco is like, maybe you're not lying, but maybe you are compromised.
Yes.
I think the audience at that stage is also supposed to be like, oh wait, I do I mean, I sympathize with Cisco too.
it's iffy,
Yeah.
man.
It's Star Trek.
Right.
It is. We saw Geordi be brainwashed into being an assassin without knowing it by the Klingons and
See,
Romulans.
the minute Cisco was like, "No more excuses, Doctor," I knew something was. That was the time. But up until then, I didn't know. And I'm actually kind of ashamed to say that I didn't realize the whole episode was a hologram, even after they showed the hologram. I thought just the part where he got transported to the Dominion ship. I thought that was just a hologram. And then at the end, when they're like, they timed it well because it was when he was supposed to go to his conference and we never knew he was gone. I was like, oh, he was transported the entire episode. I thought it was just that last part in the Dominion ship. So I felt a little silly there, but I could tell.
When did you figure it out? So you said you didn't figure it out immediately. Did you figure it out before the end of the episode, or was it a couple days later?
As soon as they said, and the Dominion were smart because, the Sloan was smart because he transported Bashir out at the same time he went to the conference, so we never knew he was gone.
Everyone was expecting him to get on that early morning shuttle.
See, yeah, I thought and then I don't know, I didn't put it together because I was slow, but I did eventually piece it together when they spelled it out for me. But I knew something was wrong with that Cisco.
Yeah, well, the Cisco, they didn't call out Jadzia, but Jadzia also was reacting like Worf. You could buy Worf immediately being like, "Fuck you, you're a piece of shit."
Why did you do it, Julian?
That one is like so hard to believe.
Yeah.
Why did you do it, Julian?
And especially like Worf already was not always a big fan of Julian to begin with.
Yeah, eats worms.
That sounds like a cover-up to me.
Well, okay, so it's directed by Michael Dorn,
worms.
And so we start out with Bashir being all pert. Is that a good
Pert?
term? Pert?
Perky? Your butt is pert.
Is that like a firm
your butt
butt?
is pert.
My butt is not currently so pert. I
don't know if it means
on that
firm. I think it means something slightly different. I don't think it means.
It sounds dirty.
I think it's.
How about this? You look up the word pert, and I'll come up with other adjectives.
What is
sparkly? He's a little sparkly.
What is a pert butt?
He's all staying up late, and he's all and Odo's all
okay.
You doctors all like to go have fun.
This is the AI saying that's not me.
Okay.
A pert butt is a round and firm buttocks. The term has become popularized by the Kardashians.
Wait,
what?
That's AI said that.
Now, did you look up pert butt?
I said, what is a pert butt?
Okay, I'm just looking up the word fucking pert.
No,
I didn't say that. I did not say that Bashir had a pert butt.
You went one step beyond.
You said you had a pert butt.
No, I said I didn't. First of all, please. Okay, we'll get back to Star Trek.
Am I
in a second.
gaslighting you now?
Yes,
No,
because
it's like Cisco and Sloan gaslighting Bashir. Am I gaslighting you?
Look. So
that was my plan all along.
I said Bashir was a pert Bashir. I didn't say butt. I just said a pert Bashir. Then you said something about a pert butt, and then I said I don't have a pert butt. I need to work on that.
Okay.
And then you looked up pert butt instead of just pert for some reason, and it's about something about the Kardashians.
This guy's got to work on his butt.
It's an adjective. There's two definitions right away from Google. The first one in parentheses says, of a girl or young woman, attractively, lively, or cheeky.
Cheeky.
I don't know why that applies only to women. I would apply it to Bashir.
Yeah.
Number two, in parentheses, of a bodily feature or garment. Attractive because neat and jaunty.
Yeah, neat, jaunty.
Neat and jaunty.
So the first example is a pert Belgian actress. That doesn't really. That's a terrible. That's a terrible example sentence. But
sounds like.
Is that
making a comment about the
time.
Belgian people?
Is that a beginning of a joke?
I know, right?
Setup?
A pert Belgian.
She had a pert nose and deep blue eyes. None of these are very good fucking sentences.
All right. Well, pert or otherwise, sparkly, whatever adjective you want to use for.
And it's also
Bashir,
known.
He's excited.
And it's also known as the program evaluation and review technique. It's a statistical tool used in project management.
I don't use that.
Maybe that's what I meant.
Yeah, man.
What
does pursed breast mean?
Pert breast?
That's what
you said. Pursed breast.
Pert breast. That's what it says in the people also ask section of Google. It says, what does pert breast mean?
I'm sure they do.
Pert breasts may refer to breasts that are firm and not sagging, or to a woman who is lively and forward.
The breasts. You got the pert breasts. It's ridiculous.
I thought it was perky. Okay, I don't want to get this conversation's grossing me out. I'm starting to get a little grossed out.
Bashir was a little perky. He was a little perky.
I think we can say that with safety.
Try Pert Plus.
No.
I
will not.
Do you like Prel instead?
Nice.
Fuck Prel. Head and shoulders all the way.
Yeah.
Head and shoulders.
But then you have to admit to people.
Style.
Then you have to admit to people you have dry skin.
Yeah. What are you
gonna do?
Yeah, man, it's dry guy.
I don't like that almond smelling shit because it smells weird.
I like the coconut shit.
Yeah, coconut's pretty good.
Makes
but
me
the
think
almond,
I'm at the beach.
The bitch.
The beach. So you know you don't have to get the almond smelling shit.
I think it's obvious.
Which are you talking about?
Head and Shoulders.
Oh, Head and Shoulders.
Remember Selsun Blue?
Selsun Blue is all right.
Remember, he's like, but you don't have dandruff, and he goes,
Exactly.
That's right.
All right. Casperia Prime is the planet he's going to, which is a fun resort planet. Probably better than Ryza. I get the impression Ryza's a little bit low rent. Not that it's cheap. I'm not saying it's cheap.
Odo was like annoyed or something.
I think Ryza's like Atlantic City.
I thought
Xperia Prime is probably a little bit more upscale.
Like Vegas.
Yeah.
Or like the nicer hotels in Vegas.
Yeah, what was up with Odo at the beginning? Like, this is Odo, like, being, like, totally fucking smug and, like, and judgy and just full of himself. It's this, he goes...
Where is it? Ryza? Casperia Prime? Well, doctors always hold their conferences at sunny resorts.
Which is true, by the way.
But don't forget to take plenty of sunscreen.
Because they have money.
Oh, let me guess. You dislocated your shoulder.
Just fucking with everybody.
Yeah, and it ends on the most fuck you of all.
Wow, you know.
Oh, let me guess. You dislocated your shoulder.
Let me guess.
Why was he such a fucking like a fucking dude man?
He's Odo, man.
And I mean, is it
Classic
him? Is it him
Odo.
being grumpy? Is it him being judgy? Is it him being like smug, or is it all of them at once?
I think he's annoyed that we haven't gone to break.
It's a
We're
perfect Odo.
past our break.
Patrick is Odo. Patrick is Odo.
We gotta go to break.
Patrick is Odo. Patrick is Odo.
We could just go there and
Patrick is Odo.
continue this
Patrick is Odo. Patrick is Odo. Patrick is Odo. Odo, yeah.
You gotta hush.
I want to eat some of this Patrick risotto. All right. We will be right back.
Looks like you're going on a little vacation after all.
I'm afraid we're going to have to continue your debriefing later.
All right. Shall we do some podcasting? What do you think?
Let's do it, bitch.
Bitch.
Get all the bitches out of your system.
Bitch.
Listen, bitch.
Listen, bitch. And I said, bitch. You said bitch, though, right?
Okay. All right. Calm down, fellas. Let me push the button here. All right. Thank you. I'm going to push the button. You cut out all that nonsense, and now we're back to the podcast.
We're nerds now.
We have returned. Play a clip if you want. If you have a return clip.
Well, I thought you were supposed to say welcome back.
Welcome back.
Am I glad to see you?
What were we talking about before
by the way,
the break?
real quick, by the way, I don't
This
usually...
better be quick. I've got a shuttle to catch.
You tricked me because I don't usually say welcome back. I usually say like we're back or some combination, some variation.
You said welcome.
Am I glad to see you?
How about let's try again. I will say we're back, but that doesn't count. That's just me saying I'm going to say it. And then I'll say it in an exuberant way, and then you can play the sound. How about that?
I'm confused.
We're back.
We're back.
This better be quick. I've got a shuttle to catch.
I'm in your blood.
Is that what you played when we got back from break, or that was a different one?
Am I glad to see you?
There you go. All right,
I played them both, but you only heard it one of them because you were in Patrick.
So that's the one you got to play. So I'll do it again. All right. We're back.
Am I glad to see you?
There we go. Yeah, that works.
This better be quick. I've got a shuttle to catch.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
So Jesse was
Cheers.
asking.
Look at how. Wait, listen
What
to
we were
this.
talking about before the break. I don't know. I don't
think
remember.
that-
There's a bunch of nonsense happened during the break.
I think there's something weird going on with the sound here.
Cheers.
It sounds like it's echoing or vibrating.
Cheers.
It sounds like it's like.
Do you remember when
Maybe it's a glitch in the hologram.
when we did City on the Edge
Holodeck.
of Forever? You played a clip that sounded like Spock was talking with another person.
Yes, I remember.
Now, do you think that is actually in the show? Because I didn't go back to listen. Do you think it's actually in the show, or do you think it's some sort of rare, weird goof up on the recording you had? Or
it's okay. Well, let's just play it first, so
Okay.
people know what we're talking about.
No, Jim!
That's supposed to be just Spock,
Yeah.
and you clearly hear two voices.
No, Jim!
I watched this on Paramount Plus, so what else can I say?
I'm just saying. Then you got the Deep Space
can say
Nine one. Play
Paramount Minus.
Bashir's weird business.
What was the Bashir's weirdness?
That you just played that has the weird echo or whatever, the weird sound you were saying.
Yeah, it was
Literally the last Deep Space Nine clip you've played this episode.
Yeah, and
Literally.
and
Mr. Scrolly. You got the
I just can't remember what it was.
It was
My goodness, man.
it was Bashir saying something and it was all echoey and you said that it had a weird sound.
Oh, I remember now.
Okay.
Cheers.
There you go.
See, it has a wobble. It has a
Yeah.
wobble.
I don't know.
Cheers.
A tremolo.
Tremolo.
I don't know. You might have something crazy going on with your computer.
No, man, because look, this is
Correct.
that's fine.
Oh, by the way, I should tell the audience I've decided to sit down for the time being. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe in the third break I'll stand
It's
up
a little
again.
bit more comfort in.
Yeah, but the
about
problem,
crouched
but you're
down?
pulling a Sloan shit on me because you're switching it up. I had just gotten used to you standing up, and now
Pulling a
your ass is
Sloan.
sitting down.
You're
I
pulling
know.
a slow
And I
shit
got
up.
my legs crossed. Is this freaking you out a little bit?
No,
I'm
that's
fine with that. It's just
fine.
you're sitting down now, and like Sloan would 1 second he'd be trying to play nice with Bashir like he's on his side, then the next minute he's like trying to trick him to sign it. The next minute he's
Right,
like,
I'll
"You
get
think
you-
you're smarter than us,
I'll
don't
get you
you?"
your scones and mobo jam. Or whatever.
Mobo jam.
What was it?
Red leaf tea.
Red leaf tea.
Hot buttered scones, moba jam, red leaf tea.
Moba jam.
Hot buttered scones, moba jam, and some red
jam.
leaf tea.
Do you remember when I first offered you scones?
Those were really big scones.
Jeffrey
Did you see
Combs
that
is
thing?
quite sensual.
It's a little early for gach.
Yeah, I know. It was quite a sensual way of saying it. You'd think there was something going on with them, but
Maybe there was.
That guy's sketchy.
that's a big leap they took though. That because some mornings I like eggs, some mornings I like waffles. So that's a big leap to say he orders buttered scones once and suddenly
You can't eat it all the
suddenly
time.
Sloan decides that's like his favorite meal ever. That means he's really on the ropes. Like Sloan, it really is grasping there because like it's a big assumption to make it seem like it's like, haven't you ever eaten one thing?
Why are you assuming it's an assumption? Why not? Why can't that just be their intelligence?
just improvising.
They gathered on Bashir. They know that happens to be his.
That's what he
favorite
tried to
food.
order.
I don't think they're
away.
assuming it from what
I think
he
they're
ordered
assuming
at breakfast.
I think they're assuming it from breakfast. Yeah.
I don't see why.
It's
you
like,
would
haven't
assume
you
that.
ever eaten something and then someone decided it was like your favoriteest thing in the world?
Sure, I'm familiar.
It's like what Google does
familiar with that.
What Google does when I look up a subject, it suddenly thinks it's my favorite subject in the world. I didn't tell the audience about that one time I looked up whites, W-I-G-H-T, which is some kind of demons, some white demons.
Yeah, it's a
one
ghost.
night.
A white is a
One
ghost.
night I did 2 searches for whites, and I also have some hue lights, and I always say like this: turn living room white, right, just to make it white because I like the white color. And after that one night of searching twice
That
in
one
Google for
night.
white.
Would you say that white is supreme?
After that one night of searching for W-I-G-H-T, then the next day when I said Google or Hue or Google or whatever, turn the living room white, it would spell out white properly, but then it would respell it as W-I-G-H-T.
Oh, yeah, you said that.
And I couldn't get it to stop.
That's
and that was
spooky,
from I've been
dude.
saying that shit into that thing for over 5 fucking years. And one night I look up W-I-G-H-T
One night.
and
The
Google's
night
like,
of the whites.
Dan loves whites. He
The
loves
night
the
of the
whites.
whites.
Dan loves the whites.
I've been to the Isle of Wight.
Can we cut that clip out?
You want to isolate that?
A good highlighting clip. Dan loves the white.
I've been to the Isle of Wight.
No,
Yeah, Jesse.
not this time.
Jesse's been to the Isle of Wight, and all 3 of us share in common the socially
skinned my knee on the beach.
socially constructed race of white.
Oh, that's Melvin. That's
I can't believe we just Melvin death.
that's right. It was death.
All right, yeah, I suppose that's somewhat of a segue to talk about William Sadler. Who's brilliant in the role of Deputy Director Sloan, or whatever his rank is.
He's got a funny face.
It's usually what he goes to. He's only in 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine. Isn't it?
You might be a king or a little street sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the Reaper.
I like that you kept that tail on there.
Yeah. It's good because it's like ding, 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 ding.
You're getting close to the TMNT 1990 movie music. And don't bore Jesse.
Oh, you mean like
Dun, 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 dun. Regular or menthol? William Sadler's great.
excellent.
And he's only in
69, dude.
3 episodes
Yeah.
of It's Got Star Trek.
It's got Star Trek.
Sorry.
Wait, what are you saying?
I don't think he's been in any.
It's because I'm sitting down. I'm all thrown off because I'm sitting down. No,
I've finished playing games with you, Sloan.
he's in 3 episodes
Sloan.
of Deep Space Nine, but he has such an impact on the lore and the
Yeah,
psyche
man.
of this show and of Star Trek more broadly, because we do know, for better or worse, depending on the implementation, post Deep Space Nine, Section 31 is not handled quite as consistently or well as it is here.
Right.
But
So-
Sloan is
It's in
great.
Discovery.
William Sadler is great. And before we forget, Dan was playing tapes.
Yeah, tapes. I have carts. I have radio carts that
He
put
was-
in
he
machine.
jammed him in the hole.
Clips from one of William Sadler's most famous roles as Death, as the Grim Reaper in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Bogus.
Damn right!
Which is, I think, arguably the best of the three Bill and Ted
I
movies.
still like the first one better, but I think the second one offers its own quality thing.
The first Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a great movie.
Yeah.
It's a funny movie. It's fun. It's charming. Wonderful all around.
The second one is like more adventurous.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is interesting.
It is. And no,
It's upsetting and,
It's a
and
philosophical
confusing
journey.
at points.
no, I agree. That's
mostly because of the station.
yeah. That's the thing. Is this things about Station seem like they kind of like Station ended up as this crazy a character that I appreciate, but at the same time, it feels a little half-baked.
If you haven't seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, rush out now. Go see it so that you understand what we're talking about when we're referencing
do you not
the
think-
character
do you
of
guys not-
It does
Station.
connect to Star Trek because they went to that place where they filmed
Station?
that battle.
No, they went to
with
the rocks.
No, do you guys agree that Station
Vasquez Rocks? I think it is.
Do you guys feel that the
Gem Hadar.
I'm listening, baby.
the character of Station is a little bit half-baked? I mean, it feels like they kind of like sort of summoned that out of their ass. I don't think a lot of thought went into Station.
I think
kind of
Station is
a lot of that movie kind of came out of it.
one of the most fascinating characters ever to be dreamed up by any writer, human or
And I'm
otherwise.
saying I don't think it was a work of like great thought. Like, you know, I think it just kinda
Counterpoint, it was the most brilliant thing ever put to paper.
Counterpoint. Yeah. Good. You know?
That's my justification.
Yeah.
The golden age of American cinema.
Anyway, William Sadler, people will also remember him fondly from Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. Andy Dufresne.
He's Andy Dufresne's friend.
He's not really his friend.
Yeah, he's his friend. He's his friend. He helps. Anyway, I'm not going to get into a whole Shawshank Redemption thing.
Yikes.
He's one of his friends. And he's the bad guy, right, in Die Hard 2.
Is he?
Yeah, he's in Die Hard 2.
I only saw Die Hard 2 like once, like decades ago.
Well, yeah, it's because it's not a good movie. Nobody needs to see it.
This is irrelevant.
But okay, fair point. That's a keeper too. That goes in the regular bank. Did you color it whatever
Chief
color
O'Brien.
it needs to be colored to be like easily accessible?
I just put it in the best of folder right now.
Okay. This is irrelevant.
This is irrelevant.
Evidence.
Evidence!
Yeah, William Sadler.
I'm not joking, Lee.
William Sadler's really great, and it's fun to watch Alexander Siddig acting against William Sadler. I think they have really good chemistry. But there's a great chemistry in all of the interactions in this episode, but particularly between William Sadler and Alexander Siddig, and also Jeffrey Combs as Wayoon. I think that's another. There's less screen time of that, but that's another really interesting interaction they have.
And you kind of referenced this earlier, Patrick, but watching the episode for the first time, it's like there's all this intrigue going on, but then at the end when you find out, you know, it was all a dream or whatever, it was a holo program. It lets you watch it. It lets you. It's one of those things that you know, a lot of shows will have something in there, and you're like, that means I can watch it again and get something more out of it. But it's only like a thing here or there. Like you can rewatch the entire episode with kind of a new meaning, knowing that because there's fake O'Brien, there's fake Cisco,
Fake
everybody, and
Teddy bear falling down,
and like the idea of like Cisco starting on O'Brien's side, but slowly getting to the other side to help fuck with them, and then like O'Brien leaking the. I'm not sure why O'Brien leaked the information. I'm not sure why O'Brien leaked the information to Julian. I don't know how that helps Sloane's case, but
I'll tell you how it helps. This is part of again, it's such a well-structured episode because all of those things work.
All right, people.
When you're watching the episode and don't realize the twist yet, right? And I've seen this episode a million times. I knew the twist going into it, but you still get wrapped up in the story. So like when he comes back to his room and his pad is in a different location, but the pen is still there. And the teddy bear is falling.
Okay,
over.
why did he reach under the couch? I'm not sure why he
dropped his pen. It rolled under the couch. He was trying to get it, and when they left, I'm making a point. Let me know if you agree with this point. The reason they did all that was because initially, before you know the twist, you're supposed to think, okay, clearly his room was searched, and it was searched in sort of a sloppy way. So you're thinking these are some like sloppy, shady people because the teddy bear's fallen over, the pad isn't where it was before, and his pen is still lost under the couch. So he's able to find that, right? Because they showed him lose the pen. He wasn't able to retrieve it before they asked him to go talk, and when he came back, shadiness was happening. Same thing with the O'Brien thing. You're like, when you're first watching it through, you're like, oh, that's O'Brien doing something clever, using clever technological ability in order to help his buddy out. But then retroactively, you're like, oh, that's Sloane making Julian stressed out by having O'Brien tell him, these motherfuckers are after you, because at that point, Bashir did not think that they were after him. He was just sort of annoyed that he was missing his conference.
O'Brien was like, watch out. Dude.
So he comes in the room, sees it's been searched, and then immediately O'Brien's like, they're fucking after you. And that's supposed to put him in, because remember, Sloane is like, I wanted you to be, we're testing you. We wanted to freak you the fuck out and see how you reacted. So that's what's brilliant on the second watch through. You're like, oh, all these things that looked like mistakes were actually very cleverly done on purpose.
Yeah, and I guess my whole thing is that, yes, I understand that he wants to freak him out by he did that because he's trying to fuck with him, like the same reason he gave him the gach and all that stuff. I just didn't.
Gach.
And you explained why it's effective, but I still have a hard time seeing how it's more effective for Bashir to think they're after him going in rather than Sloane dropping the subject onto him during, flip the switch in front of him during the meeting. That would probably fuck with him too, just as much. But I don't know.
Maybe not. I can see the value of this slow ratcheting up, because that's what they did. They ratchet up throughout the whole episode. It gets click, 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 more and more oppressive and horrible. And unfair.
You could say that because Bashir doesn't know that they know that O'Brien told them. Like, they're trying to watch it to see if Bashir maybe changes his tactics, knowing that Bashir got info from O'Brien. So they're like, we're going to reveal that, we're going to fuck with him, and we'll see if Bashir changes his tactics because, he now knows we're I don't know. I guess it's just there were a lot of hard 180s in that shit that were like, he'd go from saying, like, you're smarter than us, don't you? Do you think you're smarter than us, don't you? To, just confess, And they started all off with just like, I'm just trying to help you. I'm just he used every fucking tactic, and he would turn on a dime. And that's enough to and him being hungry the whole time. So yeah, it was did contribute to him just a very superficial point. I didn't actually see O'Brien drop the pen. I knew he was looking.
You mean Bashir?
I'm sorry, Bashir dropped the pen, and it looked like he was getting the pen by reaching up into, he was curling his fingers up into the couch. He wasn't curling.
So for the audience at home, Dan is miming all of this, and it's making Jesse and I.
That's
yucky. He was going like this.
No, he was not.
He was twiddling his finger like this. He was going up.
No. I find what you're doing now, and erotic but upsetting.
And he had the lip of the couch, the downward facing lip of the couch in the arc, the crest.
It was like a recliner.
The crest between his thumb and his middle finger.
Man, we really got to switch to a YouTube podcast.
And then he wiggles his finger around.
We would be demonetized.
See, he should flip his
very
hand
quickly.
He should flip his hand over, because presumably the pen would be on the ground, not tucked. I'm just saying, I didn't understand the logistics of it.
I don't disagree with you about the awkwardness of his chosen method of retrieving the pen.
That's very considerate of you.
But they did show him, he grabs his pad and pen, and the pen, in the process, his pen drops, and then the doorbell chimes, he puts the pad down. Oh, and by the way, of course, we always have to mention the hilarious thing about Star Trek, in that they, on the one hand, correctly predicted and sort of imagined the idea, maybe not predicted, I'm sure other sci-fi has done this as well, but the idea, they popularized this idea of having essentially a tablet, what we would now call a tablet. Of course, what they didn't think is that one tablet would be sufficient to show lots of information. Everyone's got to have a bunch of pads. So fucking Bashir is packing up for his conference. He's just like, here's all my fucking pads all stacked together, shoved into my bag, all jauntily looking out like he's
there's no room
hobo.
for my teddy bear.
If only there was a way we could utilize communication techniques to send information back and forth. I mean, if they got subspace, you'd think they could do.
It does make me, when I pack up for a trip, it does make me sad that I don't have 5 Kindles. I've just got my one Kindle Paperwhite that I stick in the bag. I'm like, man, I want people to think I read a lot by having lots of Kindles.
Does it make you feel small and insecure and insignificant?
No, it's a pretension thing. It's that people don't realize how awesome, how smart I am about reading books.
Yeah. Those other people on the trail.
When people are like, I read 20 books at once. I'm like, why would you do that? It's
that's
sufficient.
Really hard to do.
Just read the one book and finish it, and then you can get to the next book. And then
you just go from book to book.
And then you get little emails that say how awesome it is that you read a book.
I generally can't focus on more than one thing at a time, one book at a time, one video game at a time, that kind of thing.
What video game are you currently playing?
Actually, I'm trying to figure out the next game I want to play. I've been going back to Borderlands 3 while I figure out what I want to play next. I probably might play Warhammer 40K Space Marines 2.
Okay.
But I'm also thinking
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. But I'm also thinking about this game Days Gone that like I don't have high hopes for, but some people insist it's like an amazing game, but like it's also gotten really terrible reviews. I'm also considering this game called Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is like there's a sequel just came out.
Is that like about where like Jesus starts murdering everybody? It's like he comes back and just gets revenge.
It's like a deliverance, like squeal like a pig. Like Jesus is doing that to people.
There's
actually a controversy surrounding Kingdom Come Deliverance because one of the programmers supposedly, some people accuse him of being like anti-feminist or something, but he just insists that it's because the game's full of white people basically. So, but like apparently the second game they do a better job of approaching that issue. So I don't know.
Do they give the white people slaves or something?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
All right, well,
but
Jesse, are you playing any games? Parcheesi, backgammon? Do you play any of those medieval games like what's that? Nine Men's Morris or whatever they call that, where you like have the little checker pieces hopping over stuff.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. Anyway,
no, I don't play that.
Anyway,
what about you, Patrick?
I've just been playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom for the past 5 or 6 years.
You think you're smarter than the rest of us, don't you?
No, I find it very meditative just to sort of wander around and collect stuff.
I've played a ton of Zelda, and I'm going to come back to it to finish collecting stuff. I just need a break for a bit from it because I've been playing a lot of it.
Gotcha. No,
yeah.
I understand.
But anyways, as you're saying, you want a lot of Kindle, so you like want to look smart.
I want to look like I have a lot of pads.
Yeah.
Is really what it is. Right?
What if I decide to expose
There's things that motivate
you can have
you
like
in
different
life.
sizes and different like a different library on each one.
Yeah.
You're lying. What if I decide to
You're lying,
expose you?
Dan Lavitz.
Well, hey Dan, earlier you were talking about Sloan being this master gaslighter, and
Yeah.
he really is.
He is.
It's fascinating to watch it in action. But you know what? The only one who might be better than him is Wei-Un. Wei-Un is also really good at the gaslighting, and I know
Yeah, but
this
that
is
wasn't even
I
Wei-Un in
know
this
this is a holographic Wei-Un. I'm stipulating to that, of course.
Holograms?
But it is, I think, an accurate representation of Wei-Un. Both of them are great. We get to see a lot of gaslighting in this episode, and I wanted to call out some of those things because I could see people looking at it two ways. Like, for example, there's a point where in one of the interrogations where Sloan says that the fact that Bashir wanted to cure the Jem'Hadar of their addiction to white showed that he had a sympathy to the Dominion, which doesn't make sense because actually the Dominion doesn't want them cured of their addiction to white because the Dominion, the founders programmed that into the Jem'Hadar genetically so they could control them. It's a tool of oppression. So Sloane's logic doesn't make sense. And I could see some people saying that that's bad writing or a bad argument. I think that they have so many bad arguments from Sloane's perspective that that's part of the deal. Sloan is making patently ridiculous arguments because he is serving in the role. Again, we have to remember the twist. He's testing Bashir. He's stressing Bashir out. He's trying to see if Bashir will crack under the pressure. And so he's railroading him. And part of being railroaded is that it's not, look, we've seen those stories where somebody gets accused of a crime and we know they're innocent, but that the evidence, the circumstantial evidence does kind of point in their direction, right?
Evidence!
This is a different story. This is like really pushing the envelope of making bad arguments, circular arguments, as Sisko notes. He makes his argument that doesn't make any sense about the sympathy for
That's a circular argument, and you know it.
Yeah, but the sympathy for the thing that doesn't make sense. He also says at one point, remember when Sisko says to Sloan, your son died, which, by the way, presuming that didn't happen, I forget.
Yeah, actually, that's what I meant to ask that. It's like, yeah, I was wondering if Sloan had any connection at all with this event, at all, like in personal connection at all.
Probably not.
Probably
it's
not.
Probably all made up. But like, regardless, he makes the argument like because Sisko says, "Don't you have a conflict of interest?"
It just says he
if
makes
you're leading this investigation,
makes him more dedicated.
And it's like that's a crazy argument.
Yeah,
right.
It doesn't mean he wants to find the truth more. It means he wants to blame someone more.
It is a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
It's true. Yes, maybe that doesn't prevent you from contributing to an investigation, but it does mean people maybe Maybe you're maybe going to go down some paths.
Yeah, because you're not
due
more,
to desperation to find the truth.
Yeah, you're not more interested in truth. You're more interested in punishment. Is what is the thing is.
Revenge, whatever that might be.
But don't you think that your son's death indicates a conflict of interest in your investigation?
That's a great delivery by Avery Brooks. It's a classic Cisco delivery.
Is so fucking great. I'm so delighted that I got to see him on stage because seeing him in person was so fucking powerful. He's
all right, people.
Really good. I wish he were still doing some acting. But
you're right. You should have.
When did you see Avery Brooks?
Brooks,
my favorite Brooks.
I saw him in Tamberlane, the Shakespeare Theater in D.C.
Wow.
He did a run where he was playing Tamberlane. Christopher Marlowe, who is a contemporary of Shakespeare, Tamberlane the Great, which is an interesting story in and of itself, but it was a very good production. And the production, there was sword fights and there were chariot battles. There was all sorts of crazy stuff going on stage. It was really fun.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Wait, where was that?
I was at the Shakespeare Theater, in D.C.
Oh,
The
Folger?
No, the Folgers are separate. There's the Shakespeare Theater. And then
know what I'm talking about.
There's a few different theaters.
Where?
Anyway, back
you
at the
will
ring.
say yes.
Yeah.
What did they want?
What did they want?
What did they want? All right, people. But don't you think that your son's death indicates a conflict of interest in your investigation?
But that is another example of, again, you could say, why do they let him get away with it? That's the point. The point is that Bashir is being railroaded. We're meant to be super upset, sympathizing with his position, and thinking about what would it feel like if we had an authority figure abusing their power to accuse you or yourself or a loved one or a friend or somebody you respect of a crime. And then what would make that feel even worse? When your friends start turning against you. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And they buy into the gaslighting.
We might get to experience that.
Yeah.
Well,
and he tried, it was weird, his logic for, there was a part where he was kind of trying to appeal to his maybe his vanity, but in a strange way when he was talking about like engrammatic,
he's like, you're such a genius.
Wait, no, he goes, you're such a genius that you're able to compartmentalize different aspects of your personality so they don't communicate with each other. But that's such a dangerous, it's like you're so smart that can be exploited. Yeah. It's like you're so smart that you can do this dangerous thing that can easily be exploited. The only way analogy I can think of is if you're like involved in a dangerous sport. Like, let's say you're an amazing cliff diver, right?
Cliff dive.
And and you can do shit that nobody can do, but it's risky. If you fuck up even just a little bit, you're dead. You're like getting, got fucked up against the cliff. That's like Bashir's ability. That's how it makes sense in my mind. It's like he's so smart that he can do this, but it's a dangerous thing to do, and it leaves him open for attack. But it was a really fucking weird. Yeah, it was. I don't know if
it's
I
like
fully,
off the cliff into some water.
I don't know if I fully bought the argument, but it was a weird one for sure.
Well,
it's like you're so smart that you can be taken advantage of. Basically,
I think you've made a very important point here, Dan, in that they went out of their way.
Damn.
Sloan specifically went out of his way to associate the genetic engineering that went into making him very smart and physically have all these special attributes and stuff, as opposed to just relying on something that we already know they can do. Because again, as I mentioned before, there was the episode where Geordi is turned into an assassin, but he doesn't have any genetically engineered components. They used a special, it was also some sort of engram business, hidden memories or whatever, planting.
Assassins!
Yes.
Murderers!
Indeed.
Assassins!
Yes, indeed. So
that's how it goes, man.
There's the Geordi one, but frankly, there's countless of other examples in Star Trek of people being brainwashed in some fairly straightforward,
like Spock's brain.
Are those worms in the brain?
There's
the worms in the brain.
What about Spock's brain?
There's psychic.
When they control Spock with
that's not the same, Dan.
They took
his brain out and they used it for.
You're absolutely sure about that?
I am.
I doubt it.
But I think we can infer that because they didn't go the easier and frankly slightly more plausible route of an existing sci-fi reason why Bashir could have been brainwashed, they were obviously, as you said, Dan, he was testing his vanity. Mm-hmm. Sloan was testing Bashir's vanity. If you go through the episode, he's testing various aspects. How does Bashir respond to somebody treating him well? How does Bashir respond to being tired and hungry? How does Bashir respond to being threatened and accused of a crime that's clearly and obviously unfair? How does Bashir respond to being given a reason that he might actually have committed this crime, and that reason being he's so fucking cute and charming and clever, right? That's his appealing to his vanity.
You think you're smarter than the rest of us, don't you?
You think you're smarter than the rest
When I'm done, I'm going to take whatever's left of you and I'm going to lock it away.
He was
lock it away.
Mostly pretty cool the whole time. Like he was like, he went in there and he was like, "Well, where's Odo?" Like,
I thought what was interesting was when he gets beamed aboard the Jem'Hadar Cardassian ship. I guess it looked like a Cardassian ship. The controls were clearly Cardassian.
there were Cardassians on that ship, man.
Yeah, so they, at this stage in the war, the Cardassians are fully allied with the Dominion, and so we have a Cardassian guard, we have a Jem'Hadar guard, and we have Weyoun, and so Bashir is beamed over there, and at that point, you're like, okay, this is plausible, and maybe I am a secret spy. I like that at that point, Bashir. He thinks about it. He's like, okay, all right, they beam me over. Weyoun is sitting here telling me I'm a spy. Mm-hmm. It jibes with everything Sloan suggested before. And he thinks about it. He's like, no, but he thought about it, right? It wasn't immediate, like, no, this is bullshit. He thought about it. And that's because Bashir is a thoughtful person. And he was willing to say, you know what? I am willing to consider this as an option. But when I think about it, no, it doesn't make any sense.
Totally.
You know what makes sense?
Going to a break?
Hey, Dan, how'd you know that?
Because he's a smart guy.
Dan's looking at the clock. All right, we've got to take another break.
With that?
But don't worry, we're not going to be gone long. From your perspective, it's going to be like super quick. So we'll take the break and then we'll be right back. Okay, that's how it's going to work. All right. So I'll say the magic words. Be right back.
This will only take a moment.
Take your time.
All right, we are back.
No wonder I feel so tired. Something tells me I'm gonna need a lot of Fractaginos today.
I really want to have
Ractagino?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always dreamed of
It's a nice sounding name.
Klingon coffee. I know there's some brands out there that have marketed it or something similar.
When
but
how do they know what it tastes?
Exactly. It's obviously
when
not,
I
it's
think
not
of
a real thing.
Ractagino, I think of some kind of coffee made from bat parts, and the reason is that
Not rat parts?
No, rack, because it's rack.
I know, but it's not.
Well, it's because in the Borderlands game there are these flying like rat monsters called racks.
Okay, so they are like a rat, but they're
like bat.
but they're like a bat.
They're like a bat rat.
In German,
but bats are like rats,
a bat is a Fledermaus,
Yeah.
which
Maybe
is
it's
a flying mouse.
Yeah, I know this. So maybe let me look up a rack in Borderlands and tell you what it looks like. In the meantime,
I've got some German magic cards for like bats, and they're all like Fledermaus.
They're Fledermaus.
Oh, great! My shit's just frozen up.
Well,
Chrome just froze up on me. Thanks, Chrome.
Well, that's why you should switch to Firefox. While you're sorting out your business, I'll comment on the fact that Google keeps auto-correcting when I typed in Jem'Hadar into my phone notes. It keeps correcting it to Jed'Hadar.
So have you looked up Jed'Hadar yet?
No, but it's funny because it's it doesn't correct the Hadar, so maybe I guess that's a word or something. But I'm just like, I want to meet this Jed'Hadar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to actually look it up.
My name is Jed'Hadar.
So I'm trying to
he could barely keep his family fed Hadar.
And then he found was shooting at some food, and up from the ground came some bubbling Ketracel white.
It's kind of hard to say what racks look like. They have like a sort of bat/dragon wings, and their face has all these like these things coming out of it, like these big talons coming out of their face.
Why don't you do a video game podcast?
Because there's
like really good at evoking, at verbalizing, and turning into audio format.
You could be one of those influencers.
No, because there's 1.5 million video game podcasts already. Nobody cares.
But yours could be the best one ever.
Yours is gold, baby. It's gold.
That's all I have to do is make
Danny
it the best one ever.
Gold.
Forced confessions, of course. That scene is interesting. That's right before Bashir gets beamed away in this little play that Sloan has put together, and it's really one of the most uncomfortable scenes for me. I know it's brief, but where Sloan comes in, he's back to being all charming and nice and acting sympathetic, and he's like, "Hey, man, I get it. It's crazy, crazy technology, engrams and all this stuff. Here, just everything's going to be fine. You're not going to go to this crazy Federation gulag. All you have to do is sign this paper that says you did it.
All you have to do is..." You sounded like the Beastie Boys. "All you have to do is sign that paper."
And
Doesn't
I don't
that sound
know,
like the Beastie Boys? All you got to do is sign that paper. Beastie Boys, let the mic drop.
I was upset by that because, well, I mean, we're meant to be upset by that because a forced confession for a crime you didn't commit is horrifying, right? It's one of the most horrible things you can imagine.
It seems like at a certain point, like Sloane, it's almost like Sloane didn't even think he did it anymore. He was just trying to see if he could get it out of him or something.
Well, exactly. And by the way, this happens all the time in real life because people who don't have the resources and the legal team access and stuff are often given the option saying like, hey, look, man, you say you didn't do it, but we're convinced we can put you away. Sign this paper and just say you did it, and you get like a year of probation or 2 years in jail instead of 30 years.
Now, there's nothing in the script that explicitly says this, but at some point he could have switched over to being like, I'm testing you now to see if you're worthy of Section 31, and I'm still going to accuse you to see if you can hold up. So it could have been he was just at some point decided, I don't care if he's guilty, I just want to see if he's good enough to be in Section 31. But that's a lot of,
that's an
assumption.
Yeah, that's what he was doing the whole time. There was no point where Sloane thought that...
you don't think so?
I don't think there was ever a moment...
it was all about...
It was all just a test to be in Section 31?
Yeah. They were targeting him because they wanted him to be a spy. And this was the scenario they came up with to test whether he was going to be able to handle the types of scenarios he would face if he were a Section 31 officer.
Because I think like he thought that he was going to be in... He did it, and then when he found out he didn't do it, because at one point he's like, I'm not finished with you yet. He's like, he goes, Bashir's like, I didn't do it. And he's like, I'm beginning to think that. And so that was
part of the play, part of the performance that was being put on. The story, to my mind, the story does not make any sense unless this is a pure recruitment effort, and the entire story from the beginning, the torture techniques of taking Bashir when he only had an hour of sleep, refusing to give him food. Those are all things that only make sense in the context of we are trying to recruit this guy, but this is a test. This is the test before the last stage before we actually take him. We know everything about him. We've studied him. We know he's genetically engineered. We have all these files on him. Now we want him. Now let's put him through the final test. Can he handle the types of shit he would deal with if he were a Section 31 agent? I think that's the entire point of the entire ruse.
It's before waterboarding.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything specific that explicitly says that in the episode.
All right, well, write us in, audience. Write us in at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com and let us know, what are your thoughts? Do you think this was entirely a recruitment thing? Do you think they thought he was a spy and only decided to recruit him afterwards? Let us know.
Why did they introduce Section 31 at all then? Like, were they planning on following up?
Because they're snakes.
What, you mean, why did the writers?
Yeah, but so they could were they? I mean, at the end, Sisko was like, next time you see him, go.
First of all, I'm sure they were going to do more, but no, you don't even need to do more. They're introducing the idea. It's a very interesting idea. Yeah, it shifts entirely our understanding and perspective, which, by the way, has led to a tremendous amount of debate about the value of Section 31, even in the Deep Space Nine context, because it introduces the idea that in order to have utopia, you need to have shady motherfuckers who go against the rules of that utopia to maintain the utopia.
I mean, I've heard
which is more realistic.
I feel like I've heard people argue that Section 31 was only meant to be like a throwaway plot device, and it wasn't actually.
You may have, but those people don't have much of a leg to stand on because they
no legs.
They do. First of all, they did go back to it.
Well, they did, but they found out they found it was intriguing enough that they found it.
Second of all, they do at the very end have this very clear open-ended line of like, "Hey, we want you to say yes to this guy next time he comes back." So, but they didn't have to go back because, in terms of just the writing perspective, telling a story, they have permanently altered what we understand of how Starfleet and the Federation work, because they've introduced this Obsidian Order, Tal Shiar style, shadowy organization, which pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, I was going to say
pisses off. Yeah,
because that's sort of like against sort of what Star Trek began as.
It goes against the Roddenberry style of Star Trek. The counterpoint, and I'm not saying which side I fall on because I'm really kind of, I wouldn't say I'm neutral on it. I'm conflicted about it because I find that Section 31, like so many things that Deep Space Nine introduced, adds an important dose of reality to Star Trek and an important critique of even the concept of a utopia. What does it mean to be a utopia when you have people who live inside the utopia and people who live outside the utopia, and people outside the utopia have their own desires that sometimes conflict with the utopia.
But then it's not a utopia because, like, at least Roddenberry's view of utopia, because he was pretty clear, like, in the future, we will think differently. We won't feel the need to have things like this in order to have a utopia. And I see that this is a pragmatic approach, being like, something's got to give if you want a utopia. Something has to give.
This is the pragmatic response to that.
Right, but Roddenberry was just like, no, it's gonna be better. We don't have to deal with a bad side in order to have a good side. It's
but this is like Ursula Le Guin in Those Who Leave Omelas.
Did she do those Labyrinth books? Those books where they were in a labyrinth or something?
Well, she did all sorts of stuff. Yeah, the Earthsea stuff. But there's also the Strange New Worlds episode that's similar, where there's the city that everything works amazingly as long as they torture a young boy, right? You know, so Star Trek has gone back to this idea,
like the Tombs of Atuan or something.
But that idea, it's interesting that they inserted this idea, and you kind of have to live with it. Now, if you're a Star Trek fan, you've got to explain away or deal with this idea of Section 31 one way or the other.
Remember Fruitopia?
I do. I remember
some kind of fruit punch.
I remember the fruit.
Was it gum? Because I don't think I ever had Fruitopia.
It was
fruit rolls, fruit roll-ups.
Juice? I thought it was juice.
What was the gum that was really fruity, super fruity, but it went away all quick? Fruit stripe gum? Yeah, that was like really delicious for like 2 bites.
Didn't it turn out that it made all your skin slough off? Like your face would just fall off if you ate too much of it?
Yeah, especially your genitals.
Or like how Big League Chew,
Armadillo
like people would
gum.
put the whole bag in their mouth and, choke.
Remember as a kid, they'd have like bubblegum cigarettes and you could suck them in and blow out powder. You could blow out powder so to pretend you were smoking. Kids would walk around recess with these bubblegum cigarettes.
Or that thing about you couldn't eat Pop Rocks and drink like soda.
Yeah, that's how Mikey from from Life Cereal died.
His head exploded.
From eating Pop Rocks and soda. Green Day had a song called Pop Rocks and Soda.
With all due respect, Captain.
With all due respect.
So we don't necessarily need to go into the debate here because it is a complicated debate, and I think lots of folks have written articles about this, etc., about the introduction of Section 31 into the Star Trek lore and what the implications are for how the Federation runs is one thing, right? There's the whole argument, does the Federation actually need something like that? And then there's the moral dimension of it, right? Which Sloan addresses in this episode, where he talks about how in order to have the moral high ground, basically, it's that ends justify the means. Sometimes you have to have people who are willing to break the rules in order to allow everyone else to live by those rules, to keep those rules in effect.
Because the ends do justify the means.
The ends don't always justify the means.
And where it becomes interesting is precisely in this context of the timing in season 6 of Deep Space Nine, where there is an actual existential threat to the Federation in terms of the Dominion alliance with the Cardassians, etc. There's a real chance that they can defeat the Federation, they could defeat the Klingons, and completely ruin everyone's cultures, etc. And so,
for real,
yeah. And then so you get into the idea, okay, what is justifiable in those circumstances if you face a threat so significant that your entire culture could go away? And there's plenty of philosophical discussion, both within Star Trek and outside of it, about where those thresholds lie in terms of what's breaking rules, what's bending the rules. Is it better to stay true to your ideals, even if it means you go extinct? I don't know.
Get down with your bed, sir. I love show business.
I like that. Can you hear him after he does the scythe swing over his head? You can hear him go doot 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 doot. Do you hear him do that?
Yeah.
Chief O'Brien.
Talk about echo.
Yeah, talk about echo.
Talk about echo.
Get down with your bed.
Get down with your.
It's right here. It's right here. It's subtle, but he goes do.
Now, I don't want to interrupt you from your tomfoolery because I am enjoying it, but just to continue the point, this episode, Sloan is stating outright, he's arguing the ends justify the means, right? We are led to believe that
That's correct.
That the writers in the voice of Bashir and Sisko and others don't necessarily agree. Odo might agree, right? I like how Odo straight up is like, Odo plays the real politic guy. He's the person, he's the fan saying like, of course it makes sense to have Section 31. It's ludicrous to think that an organization, a large power, a great power, as he said, could run without some sort of shady business in the background. But this episode comes right before In the Pale Moonlight. Yeah. And In the Pale Moonlight, Sisko again has to wrestle with the idea, do the ends justify the means? Right? So it's immediately after this episode, Sisko, who we think is definitely on the side of Section 31 sounds shady and we shouldn't have them, to doing very Section 31 style stuff in order to help save the Federation.
Save the Federation.
Save the Federation.
Oh, sorry, Dan looked like he was going to click something. He moved very far away from your microphone.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You're squinting at
sometimes
the
I think I
screen.
know where I leave a sound and it's just totally gone out of my view.
Which is the sound gonna? What's
Not pleasant.
That wasn't the one I was playing.
All right.
It was it's not often weird. Here.
In time, he'll come to agree with me.
See, that would have made sense like 2 minutes ago, but
Okay.
it doesn't. I couldn't find it.
Probably not worth us trying to recreate the content.
No, it's not.
But now you have it, so that if you need to play that again, should Jesse and I talk about something that would warrant you playing that sound to just sort of,
Not this time.
I like. There's two.
That sounds like Jake, because doesn't Jake say not this time at some point? I think he does.
Oh, he does say something like that.
Yeah.
Does Jake? What is? I don't know. Now I have to find all the Jake fucking comments.
Macabre bread.
What is he talking about? Like
no crust.
He's talking about like you miss her companionship or whatever.
Rock the Gino, extra sweet.
Yeah, Rock the Gino, extra sweet.
Gino.
There was actually there were two parts. There were two parts where. Oh my God!
What is this?
I don't know what that was.
What are you doing here, Dan?
I don't know, man. There's a lot of chaos going on here right now. And
Is it because I sat back down? Should I stand back up?
I'm sorry for wasting all your times. Like, I'm just trying to get
You're not just
something.
wasting our time. You're wasting the time of many people out there.
Yeah, I know.
An internationally.
Hot-buttered scones, moba jam, red leaf tea.
Internationally
Hot-buttered scones,
recognized,
moba jam, and some red leaf tea.
Rock the Gino, extra
Moba
sweet.
jam.
Macabre bread, no crust. Macabre bread, no crust. It's a little early for gach.
Hot-buttered scones, moba jam,
Macabre
and
bread,
some
no
red
crust.
leaf tea.
Hot-buttered scones, moba jam, red leaf tea. Rock the Gino, extra sweet. Macabre bread, no crust. Something tells me I'm gonna need a load of fractaginos today.
Was it worth it? No. Okay.
I don't know. I kind of enjoyed that.
You like the
Totally do.
the lack of vampirage up to leading up to it. There were the great smiles during the first interview that William Sadler gave. One of them was when he laughed when Bashir was like, "You have a good bedside manner."
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Ha!" He gave this great smile, and then the better one, my favorite one, was right in that same exchange. He goes like, "I thought that I was gonna be put under a bright light," and he goes,
Not this time.
It sounds so like innocuous and safe, but like he really means it. That's vicious. It's
This is just the first round, buddy.
Yeah.
The next time Bashir comes back, instead of sitting on the one side of the table all casual where they're close together, he makes Bashir sit down at the end of the table, and they really accentuate in the cinematography how bright that table is, because that's like a glowing white
light up
table.
fancy
And I'm
table.
pretty sure I tried to rewind to compare, but I was too lazy to do it properly. Maybe somebody else out there can do that. To me, it looked like the table brightness had gone up. I don't know if they like physically made the table brighter, or if it was just sort of the angle, how they were shooting it, but it really did look like Bashir was. It was more of an interrogation framing than the previous framing that was more casual and chill.
There were the fake Sisko turning moments. There were four states of fake Sisko. There was number one was on his side at the beginning. Then the second one begins when he expresses disagreement over Bashir's decision to reveal war plans to genetically engineered dudes. That's when Sisko's like, I'm on your side, but I don't agree with that move, but that doesn't mean you're bad. And then like when Sisko straight up gaslights him, it's like, well, maybe you did do it, but you didn't realize it, so you're still a good person. And then the fourth one, he's like, the fourth one, he's like, fuck you, man, no more excuses. So I like that they sort of like did it in stages, I thought that was pretty good. I was enjoying how they sort of introduced that.
It was the ratchet. Everything was ratcheting up.
Yeah, it was ratcheting up, and cranking, ratcheting and cranking. I actually have, and this is
Ratchet and Clank.
That's a video game.
It is a video game.
Yeah. I recorded like 20 points where Sloane, starting with Sloane's interview technique to the end, but I don't think
one of your lists.
Yeah, but it's like 20 things long. I don't know if we really need to go through it.
I mean, you want to give it a try and see?
I guess we can see. So at first he's nice to Bashir. He's trying to get info on him by being nice, like, they're buddies and they got nothing to worry about, like, and so that Bashir can trust Sloan. So he can be honest with him. And that's how he gets him in things like when he says, oh, you related to him. He's like, yeah, because you speak their language, in reference to the genetically engineered dude. He's like, yeah, I speak their language. And that's when Sloan is like, And then he goes,
is this continuing the very first point that he's being nice? Or are we on to the second point?
Well, this point was like... This point had 2 points, sub-points. So then,
okay.
Don't worry.
May have been an error.
Don't worry. Right. And then Sloan goes on to say, you do whatever you can to cope. He said, like, I don't think I could handle something like that. And Bashir goes, you figure out it. You do whatever you can to cope with such a situation. And he's like, huh.
And humans are more adaptable in confinement than Klingons.
Right. That's an interesting bit of lore. Because usually when they talk about humans, it's all about, oh, they're curious or they just whatever. It's something kind of bullshit. But I like the idea that Klingons are strong warriors, but they kind of break down if they're incarcerated.
Freak out if you put them in a little cage.
But when Bashir says you do whatever you can to cope, that sort of speaks to him like being like, I'd even betray the whole fucking Starfleet in order to cope, and then there's an interesting difference between, because Bashir's like, I just wanted to save lives and end the war, but then he's like, but you wanted to do it by aiding the Jem'Hadar, right?
Yeah.
There's parallels to real life about that sort of situation of like, what does ending a war mean? When it's like, when the way you're ending the war is by like, quote unquote aiding.
And we're still at a sub point of point number 1.
Well, that was just like, no, that's of course going to be the longest because it sort of introduces all the stuff that's going on.
All right.
Then
point number 2.
Sloan offers breakfast, but gets it wrong. We already talked about that. So it was weakening his constitution.
Mm-hmm.
3, Sloan puts down.
Weakening the constitution? Where have I heard about that before?
In like D&D games?
No, I was making a
Oh.
sort of a wry reference to reality.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Let's get back to
I was thinking about D&D. They have the Constitution.
I get it. Let's get back to the non-reality here. You're fine. We're fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's
okay.
I'll try to catch on to your cynicism better.
All right.
Sloan puts doubt in Bashir's mind with O'Brien's message. Number 4, Bashir comes back to Sloan. This time, Bashir is more guarded and concerned and careful with his words. And Sloan is being more accusatory, starting to be a jerk about it. And then Sloan accuses Bashir. This is when Sloan starts using other tactics. He accuses Bashir about lying about the facts, like when and for how long he was in it. And then he says, then he switches to, oh yeah, well, you were able to escape because they let you escape, and he says like, oh, you didn't, you like joined them. And Bashir is like, I got captured. He's like, no, you joined them. So he keeps like throwing these different sort of like tactics of accusation. He appeals to, I mentioned this already, him appealing to Bashir's vanity, saying that his mind is so powerful that he can compartmentalize and separate his brain waves. And somehow he's so smart that makes it exploitable. And so he's somehow sensitive to mind control. He tries to get Bashir to confess.
Which point is this?
This is 7.
7. Okay. I'm trying to keep track.
Yeah, I'm flying through them. 8, Sloan then tries to get Bashir to confess by pretending to be on his side again. This time he's like, I just want to help you, you should confess. Like, I just want to do what's best for you. The kind of like, if you confess now, it's going to be much better than if you confess later. I just want to help you. Then 9, but then he takes a total 180 turn and Sloan jumps to pretending to be offended by Bashir's arrogance. That's when he's like, you think you're better than us, don't you? So first he's like, I want to help you. And then he's like, you think you're better than us. So that like is like jarring to try to take that hard turn. Then 10, he humiliates Bashir by parading him through the promenade in cuffs.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was fucked up. Yeah. And the third interview scene starts with, I like the shot of them in the third interview at the beginning. You can immediately tell that they've been in that room for like hours.
Forever.
Just by like the first frame.
Avery Brooks looks so put out.
Yeah, I know. And that's great because you don't need any explanation. You immediately know they're exhausted. So, and Bashir is also fucking hungry. And this is 12. This is when fake Cisco has to admit that Bashir's decision didn't make sense, even though Cisco's like, no, he's not a terrorist. He's not a bad guy. But
he's just a dumbass.
He just made a dumb decision. Then Sloan fucks with Bashir by making Cisco think that Bashir, he's like, well, Bashir's a good guy, but he could have done it unwittingly. So he keeps switching back and forth.
Is that 13?
That's 15.
15.
14. 14. Okay. Going to 15. So he keeps switching back and forth between this idea of like, I'm on your side. I want to help you, to you think you're smarter than us, don't you? And back to I think you're a good guy. You're just, so he keeps like going back and forth. With it, when you're tired and hungry, it's got to be exhausting. 15, he tries to bargain with Bashir by saying he'll put him away forever unless he signs a confession. This is when he's starting to really reach by being like, just admit or else I'll sign you away forever. Bashir turns it down, so he goes out on a super limb and tries to get Bashir to He tries to get Bashir to a super weak limb, super limb. He tries to get Bashir super limb.
Don't fall in love with your own shit, Dan.
Super limb, and tries to get Bashir to think he's with the Dominion by transporting him over. So that's like a shot. Like that's one of the last moves you can pull because he's like, okay, maybe he'll give something away then. Then he does the thing where I say he's guessing the breakfast. Patrick is saying that they probably studied into finding out what his favorite breakfast is, which is true because like they were able to find out. The Section 31 can read into everyone's perverted holosuite activities.
Oh, yeah.
That's the future we live in.
They're like, you ever get those spam emails that are like, you don't know me, but I know you really well. And I used your webcam to watch you jerk off. And I recorded it. And I'm going to send it to all your friends. You know those emails?
Yeah, I know. I get them all the time.
Well, Section 31.
They're sending those emails?
No, they're doing it for real, though.
They're for real?
Yeah, but they don't send you the email. They just record you slapping the bean or
Are you saying for real?
For real.
For real.
For real.
Now I'm at
Chief O'Brien.
What are you at, 18?
Bilana's on it.
I'm on 17 is breakfast. 18, Bashir catches on to everything that's going on, but he gets the specifics wrong. Bashir thinks that Sloan and Wayoon are in cahoots, which in a way...
He says, why would you both be trying to convince me of the same lie?
Right, and so he's kind of right, but he doesn't have the full picture.
Not yet.
But that's when Sloan is like, he pretty much he's going to catch on. So Sloan somehow doesn't give up yet. He digs even deeper, and he fucking gets like fake Cisco to pull like a total like heel turn on Bashir, basically saying like, no more of your excuses, and then like. That's like a last-ditch move. And then what ended it all was the scene from the very beginning when he noticed O'Brien's arm.
Chief O'Brien?
And that's when it's always fun, when there's something at the beginning that like seems like it's like the Chekhov's gun thing, I guess, where it's like it seems like nothing, but and I still forget to take it in as that probably is going to come into later. There's a lot of like in this episode I forgot to be like, oh, that's probably going to come into
when
play
it's well
later.
written, you can start predicting. If you know you're dealing with really good writers, that's when you can pay attention to those elements. Sometimes in less well-structured shows, there will be stuff that is meaningless or just doesn't come till later.
I agree with that mostly, but there's a fine line because someone might argue that it's better writing if you don't see it coming, but you might also argue that it's worse writing if there's nothing connecting it. If the reason you didn't see it coming is because there's no connective tissue.
I think both things can be true so long as it's done with purpose and care. The same thing could be said about music, right? Music works when it follows certain patterns. However, you can also go against those patterns, but even in going against those patterns, you are doing so in a patterned way, right? In order for it to make sense. If it's just cacophony or cacophony,
cacobaloney.
Is it music anymore? I don't know. Maybe the first time somebody does. The thing that Cisco says too is another example of what I was talking about with Sloan of people making arguments that don't make sense, right? Like Cisco says, you're not going to get us thinking you're innocent by shifting the blame to somebody else. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, absolutely, that's one way to determine you're innocent is by proving somebody else did it. 100%.
I've finished playing games with you, Sloan.
So I think another example of that. And by the way, talking about O'Brien, I've always found it funny. They've got this running gag going back to TNG of O'Brien being into kayaking.
Oh,
and what's funny about it is that it just seems very
Chief O'Brien
seems so out of character for O'Brien. Like nothing against it. I love kayaking. Kayaking is awesome. I think it's great that O'Brien kayaks, and anybody should be perfectly happy to kayak. And there's no stereotype. There oughtn't be a stereotype about kayakers. But I don't know. I just don't buy that O'Brien was like going kayaking for fun for some reason.
More or less than Archer being into water polo?
No, Archer I buy to being in polo
because he's kind of a space nerd.
Yeah, he's a total space nerd, right? And remember we talked about on Enterprise. We were like, at first we were like, oh, is it just like everyone's like water polo is like this thing that everyone's into in the future? And then Enterprise makes it very clear. No, they all think he's a weirdo. Like Trip is like, why the fuck is this guy into water polo?
According to your report, you and Chief O'Brien crash landed on the planet, where you then made contact with a group of Gem Hadar.
Chief O'Brien?
According to Chief O'Brien, you were more interested in curing the Gem Hadar of their addiction to Ketracel White
Chief O'Brien?
Yes, indeed.
Well, frankly, I would have preferred to have kept you under observation a little longer. Unfortunately, we didn't know about Chief O'Brien's injury, or we would have incorporated that into the program.
Chief O'Brien?
Have you isolated just Sloan saying Chief O'Brien?
Oh no, that's a good idea though. I usually am pretty good about that. I forgot.
I think you should go through this weekend.
Yes.
This weekend, here's your task. Go through
homework.
every episode of Star Trek and just isolate anytime somebody said Chief O'Brien.
This will only take a moment.
What won't take a moment is us ending the show. Because
What?
It is
Never.
that time. We gotta end the show. We've come up on our time. Any final points? I have one very minor final point. I really do like that in Cisco's little side office thing, he has a model of the International Space Station, because it's like on all the starships they have models of other starships, and he's on a space station, so he has models of other space stations. I think that's cute.
That's a little nerdy too.
It's a lot nerdy in an awesome way.
There were two duties in this episode. So here's one, duty one.
As of now, you're all relieved of duty and confined to quarters. Relieved of duty and relieved of duty and relieved of duty and.
I hear the T, so it's a no duty.
Yeah.
This is by the way, again, new listeners, this is a classic gag. Dan, if he hears somebody say the word duty, he wonders whether they're saying duty or duty.
It's called duty or no duty.
Duty or no duty. And in this case, it took Jesse and I a long time to figure out the proper way to respond to Dan. He gets very upset if we respond incorrectly. We think he's saying duty, so we declare it's a no duty.
No,
or at least I am. Jesse, do you concur?
Yeah, that's
relieved of duty.
That's what I hear as well.
And usually Jesse and I disagree with Dan because Jesse and I are against Dan.
Yeah,
We're
it's
out
true.
to get him.
As
Isaac was right.
mentioning, you know?
See, I knew it. It's got someone else on my side here letting me know. See, we know it's truth when we get an outside perspective. On
So that was the first one. What was the second one?
I gotta say my opinion. I think it's almost a no duty, but it's still duty to me.
You still think it's a duty?
It's all duty to me.
I mean, you do always say it's a duty.
No, I have said duty before. I have.
I think you got that genetic thing where you can't hear T's.
What's that thing like Fraser, Slazer, or that sound thing where they say it twice and it's supposed to sound different depending on.
You're talking about Frisian?
It's somebody says a word or a sound and some people hear it as one word and other people hear it as another word. It's like that audio version of when you look at a picture and it's like, do you see a bunny rabbit or a duck? You know,
or a blue rabbit, a blue dress, or a gold dress. Anyway, what's the other no duty?
Stranger.
Duty or no duty?
Why? What made you confess? It was because you realized that it was your duty to be honest with your captain. It was your duty to be...
That's a duty.
It was your duty to be...
I think it's a duty. You think it's a duty, Jesse?
Duty.
That's duty all the way.
That's a rare duty.
Duty.
It's been a while.
Duty.
It's been a while since we had a legitimate three-way duty.
That guy had fun with that too.
Now, I will say the Cisco one, even though I said it's duty, it's barely duty.
Barely duty.
Barely duty.
Just barely.
With all due respect.
Glad to hear.
This is a grim profession.
All right. So
That sounds like a cover-up to me.
that was
Our
Inquisition.
official designation.
That was
is
Inquisition.
Section 31.
Inquisition.
We hope you all like that. The origin of Section 31. By the way, for those who aren't aware, a few weeks back we covered the movie Section 31.
Yikes.
Very different story. And by the way, you definitely go listen to it. I know there's mixed opinions. Well, not that mixed about the actual product. Section 31.
Patrick,
the podcast was great though. Dan Dan has a nervous breakdown, but in a very positive way because he was very upset.
I remember one episode. I don't know if it was last episode or the one before. Patrick, you said you did not hate Section 31.
I don't hate Section 31.
Now, okay. First of all, there's not many things that...
I don't think I hate any Star Trek.
The thing is there's not many things that I hate. There's a few things that I hate, but overall, it's not saying much to say that you don't hate something. But so when you say it, it sounds like it's less that you don't hate it and more that you found some like real positives to it. And I did not find many positives at all.
I don't find many positives. Beyond, I don't think it is good. But I thought it was sort of interesting. I was more engaged by it than say watching like Nemesis or certain episodes of there's episodes of Star Trek that are either boring or they're offensive.
To me, there was
this was just sort of like a school, like how do you not make a Star Trek movie? And that's kind of held my interest in some way.
And I can see how all that crazy bullshit is entertaining.
Yeah.
And I mean that.
You said it was like a spectacle kind of thing.
Yeah, it was. Well, I said it's like there's something incredible that this movie got made.
Incredible.
But it's not a good thing. Not in a good way.
Yeah.
Now, and I understand why someone might look at all that and think like, and not be bored by it, and I totally respect it. To me, sometimes when there's too much shit going on, it becomes boring because I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I agree, but I don't know. I just, folks, go listen to our podcast about Section 31.
Do it.
I don't seem to be going anywhere.
It was a fun one to record, a little bit intense. But next week,
it's like the fire at the circus. It's intense.
Next week, we'll be discussing.
What if it doesn't use tense?
Star Trek TNG's The Drumhead.
Bum bum bum.
Melvin. Great, man. That's just wonderful. So watch.
Not again.
Watch The Drumhead. Go watch Beavis and Butthead's. No, not Beavis and Butthead. Go watch Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yikes.
Yep. Whoops.
Yikes.
Yikes.
And if you'd like to check,
I can't believe we just Melvin death.
You can converse with us. Feedback at itsgotStarTrek.com. Send us in a voicemail like Jesse or Isaac did.
Send us in a voicemail.
You can send us an MP3 or go to www.itsgotStarTrek.com/record.
Send us in a voicemail.
Social
Send us in a
media.
voicemail.
Okay. All right, I'll just
send us
wait
in a
for him to stop
voicemail.
so I can finish
Send
up
us in a
with this.
voicemail. Yeah. No.
All right, go to our patreon.com/itsgotStarTrek. Pay us money for some similar nonsense like you just heard from Dan.
Send us in a voicemail.
And at It's Got Star Trek on all the social media. That's where you can find us, chat with us, have all sorts of fun. Definitely check us out at Blue Sky if you haven't followed us there yet. Blue Sky, Facebook, YouTube, all that jazz, Apple Podcasts, I don't know, whatever. All the things. All the things. All right.
It's better now.
Drumhead next week. That does it for us this week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
This isn't over.
You have sunk my battleship.
The time is 0700 hours.
What? You're joking. Computer, confirm time.
The time is 0700 hours, 11 seconds.
Something tells me I'm gonna need a lot of fractaginos today.